Hey everybody, what's up? Kevin here from the MSOTD Rocks YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be doing a Kevin Figures Out video where I figure out if I like a certain band or not. I shot this video back in September, but I deleted the source file when I started editing it, so here we go again. This is me figuring out if I like the Minnesota prog metalcore gent band called Reflections. Before we get started, please follow MSOTD Rocks on places like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You will get the 30-second song of the day featured on all of those platforms. It's a way to get to know what the emerging bands in the scene today, plus the big boys. Just a great way to get to know a lot more music. We also talk to you on all those different platforms, plus we announce anytime anything gets released, podcast-wise, YouTube-wise, anything on those platforms. On Instagram, though, you can watch our IGTV series, which is a series of behind-the-scenes videos from us talking about what we're going to be doing every single Tuesday night and every single Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Central. We do our Instagram live stream. It's a 1-hour live stream. You come hang out with us, and we have an absolute blast. Please also subscribe to this YouTube channel, because not only do you get the Kevin Figures Out series videos, you also get our album reviews, our top 10 lists, our special videos about emerging bands in the scene today, and of course, as we get to the end of the year-end awards. So please make sure to subscribe to talk and listen to us talk about all of those things. And this YouTube channel is also where the Chord Progression podcast lives. It is our very own podcast where we talk to all the emerging bands in the scene today, so you get in the know with them early in an in-depth, free-form style interview that you would never get anywhere else. We have had bands like Saul, Boys of Fall, Throw the Fight, Kill the Lights, Thunder Mother. I mean, the list goes on, and it keeps growing. Hey, maybe Reflections will be one of them, so we'll see what happens after this. You can find those videos on YouTube, or you can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and on iHeart Radio. Link in the description below for everything, so like, comment, share, follow, subscribe, whatever it might be, to all those places. Now let's go. Now, when it comes to Reflections and the Kevin Figures Out series, usually with some of these bands, I have a little bit of a knowledge of them before jumping into it. So taking a look at the ones I've already done with Dance Gavin Dance, I knew they came out with a brand new album back in April when I did the Kevin Figures Out video back in May with their Weedly style and just their overall just expansive style. Baby Metal knew about their whole entire Japanese metal crossover gimmick with the J-pop style and heavy metal, so I knew something about that. When it came to Poppy, I knew some things about with more of a pop sense, more of a weird sense, but also bringing in metal as well, but I didn't really listen to any music. And The Who, I also knew about their Mongolian metal style. So I had a background a little bit on those bands. When it came to Reflections, though, I literally had no idea who these guys were. I had no idea what they were about, so I had to go and be like, we're going to do this in complete blind faith.
What a lovely bed.
So I'm going to go through how we're going to do this first, then we're going to really jump into it. First, I'm going to go through the music of the band through their album so that I get a sense of what they're like, we understand them, and then we go from there. Secondly, I'm going to be talking about their image and their gimmick to see if I really associate with that at all, and if it's something that really takes over the top for me or drags it back. Kind of like think about Ice Nine Kills with their whole entire horror movie and like horror inspired gimmick, which I really, work with. And of course their community of fans third, and then I'm going to take a look at all those put them together and give you my full on opinion if I like them or not. So let's go. Alrighty, so first things first, we gotta grab the good old headphones over here and listen to some of their stuff. So let's give a shot at it. Well, okay then. So now after going through their music, I have to talk about their albums one by one. So talking about the Fantasy Effect, which came out back in 2012, this was not something I was really expecting, because when I took a look at their styles, more gent metalcore and prog metal, I really didn't pick up on a lot of that. What I picked up on was some of the gent style. What I really picked up on was more of a deathcore style on this album. So what did I like about the Fantasy Effect? One thing I liked was the consistent heaviness of the drums. So when I listened through this album, one thing I consistently got was just these heavy, hard-hitting drums, a lot of double kicks in there. And as many of you guys know, watch my videos, I'm an absolute sucker for the double kick, for the double bass. I absolutely love it. However, that's not going to be a make for me in terms of this album I really like because of that. There's got to be more going on there. So was there anything else going on? Another thing I really liked about this album was the consistent changing overall tone and style of the guitars, because really got that gent style in there, and I really liked it because there were times where it really compared well to the more hard-hitting and heavy-hitting style drumming and faster pace style drumming as well, but also contrasted against it in a really good way. Take a look at a couple examples. Let's take a look at a song like Ceilings, where the rough snare intro then got transitioned to heavy drumming to match with the chugging down the two guitars, and really give the song one hell of this absolute heavy feel. And when those kind of styles work together, I do like it. Then you have something like Good Push, where you have the higher tune, higher distorted guitars that work up that gent style, really do work well in contrast against the heavy hard-hitting drumming, because you're getting that fast-paced, heavy hard-hitting drumming, so it's a deeper sound, versus a higher, more distorted sound from the guitar, so that contrast really does work out well. And then take a look at a song like Rotations, where you get the best of both worlds, because the guitars are consistently changing what they're going with in terms of their overall tone and distortion, whether sometimes it's lower or down tunes, and then it's higher with a higher distortion at the same time, but that heavy drumming and fast-paced drumming is consistently there. So when that comes in, that contrast just works out really well, and the comparison works out well. Plus they transition between those parts really well as a whole too, so I did enjoy that. If there really is one big thing that I really couldn't get into on this album, it was the vocals, and that's because the album was almost consistently and primarily 100% unclean vocals. And don't get me wrong, I love metalcore when it comes to when you get those unclean vocals, and there are times where songs are really unclean throughout the whole entire thing, and I do enjoy them. However, this was not the case, and I believe the biggest reason for it was just a rougher and just darker style of unclean vocals. And the reason why I really don't get behind that at all in the end is when I really take a look at it, I like to kind of follow along a little bit with the lyrics as well, to really understand the feeling of what's going on and really understand how the message really connects with the emotion that the instrumentation is playing off of. And with those extreme unclean vocals throughout the whole entire thing, I really don't connect with that very well personally. This is why I'm not that big into deathcore, but if you go to metalcore, I am all for it. So the consistent use of that really did draw away from me. Plus, when you take a look at that heavy, hard, fast-paced, consistent drumming on there, and you get those consistently unclean and brutal unclean vocals at the same time as well, again, this gets monotonous a little bit to the point where I get lost in it. And this is, again, my personal opinion, where me and always consistently using unclean vocals, they just don't really work out well. So overall, in the fantasy effect, I do love the fast-paced, hard-hitting drum style and the consistent change-up in the guitar styles as well, but just using that consistent unclean vocal just really got me lost in a lot of these songs. Not in a good way, like lost, like, wait, what's going on? So I've lost in like, whoa, kind of way. So fantasy effect, I'm kind of gonna have to pass on. So let's go to the band's second album, Exists, where on this album I saw a lot of the similar things I saw from the first album, the fantasy effect, onto this one. So were there things I liked about it? Yes, absolutely. One of the big things I liked about it were the transitions between different parts of the songs, because you had that genty, higher pitched guitar style, and it ended up mixing with a more melodic sound, and it really blended really nicely. And when those transitions work, I really do get behind it, because it lets the song flow really easily, and it lets you really understand how different things are going from one part to the next. And again, it gave a more transcendent vibe to it. So take a look at songs like Stories Through Stems, The House, and This House, I'd say, and Vain Words from Empty Minds. Those songs really did play out with that whole entire transition style really well. One thing I liked about this album was the fact that at times when it came to the choruses, while they were going with a lot of unclean vocals, again, they did more of like a chanting style thing. And what I really liked about that was we got a little bit more of that like clean style in there, even though it was rougher, but I always love the way the chanting style works. And there are bands that really do work out with this well. Italian metalcore band Stand the Canvas is an absolute master at this, and I really love the epicness that this brings out. Take a look at songs like My Cancer and Candle. This really works out on those songs. What did I like about Exist? And again, it's the unclean vocals, the consistent use and heavy use behind them as well. And it's the same thing with the fantasy effect, where, and why I'm not that big into deathcore, I just don't really connect with them that well. It's just not something I really connect with overall, because again, it makes it harder for me to really understand the song, understand the meaning of it, and really take a full part what the lyrics and how that emotion is being described within those instrumentals. And while they do bring in the chants at times as well, which I do like, I believe they could have used a little bit more of the clean vocal style just to maybe mix it up a little bit. Take a look at a song like Lost Pages. They try to use this more like transcendent bridge to give the song more of this complete and more diverse feel. However, again, the unclean vocals just really stand out as a thing where I just really have trouble getting into. One other thing I didn't like about this album was the heavier lines on the electronic instrumentation on this. And while I'm never the biggest proponent of this, like on Bring Me the Horizon's Amo, what I do like about it sometimes is when it really can contrast against that heavier sound and really create something that sounds perfect in a good blend. Take a look at, I'm gonna go with Bring Me the Horizon, what they did on their post-human survival horror on a song like Kingslayer. This really did work out well. However, on this album with Exist, this really wasn't the case in my opinion, because the heaviness of it, mixing with that electronic stuff they did, it created more of this soundscape style that I just really couldn't get into, and the album really intros with something like this, so it was really tough for me to get into the album from the get-go. So overall on Exist, there are parts I really like. I love how they transition from one part to the next. However, just the consistent unclean vocal style is still taking me out of this. Now time to go on to The Color Clear, their third album, and I was in for something different, but what I saw a lot of in terms of my overall feeling towards the album was a little bit of the same results that I saw from the Fantasy Effect and Exist. One thing I really put this album again is the drumming. This becomes a very consistent thing because when I listen to the drumming on this album, it had this more like melodic deathcore style, so it gave a little bit more of this elongated heavy style as well. And it just, I believe it created this great sound because it just mixed in a lot better with what they were going on with this album. And again, it was easier for me to get into it when it's not consistently fast-paced and double kicks, even though I absolutely love those. Take a look at a couple examples. Take a look at Translucents, where the fast-paced, Translucents I should say, where the fast-paced drumming on this track mixed with the slower melodic guitars made the song just really stick out in my mind as an overall favorite. And Atticus Luna had this intro that was absolutely incredible with the drumming. I couldn't get enough of it, so make sure you take a listen to that track for the intro drumming. Ooh, is it good. What I'm going to pass on this album is, again, the vocal styles. They consistently go with those unclean vocals once again, and again, I just really can't get into a song if it's all unclean vocals. There are some songs where it really does work out, like Translucents on this album. It really did work out well. But overall, it was, again, something that really kind of drew me away from it. One other thing I really didn't like about this album was the very consistent melodic style that the album had overall. Now, don't get me wrong, I do enjoy a melodic style, especially like melodic metalcore. I do enjoy the melodic deathcore style at times. However, when you consistently go with it, because you're going to give it this lighter guitar work sound, slower pacing, electronic soundscapes, it does take me out of it. But again, I can't get into it, but when you put it all in one album together, sometimes I just get mixed in it. So overall, this one, it was different when it comes to The Color Clear, but again, the vocals and that consistent unclean vocal style that I just really can't get that much into is really kind of taking me out of it once again. When it comes to the last album, Willow, I'm not going to go that deep into it because I believe what I said on the Fantasy Effect really does stand out here as well. So again, just a little bit of a recap when it comes to Willow. What do I like about Willow? I listened to the instrumental album of it before I listened to the actual thing with the vocals in it. And one thing I did like about it was, if you go look at the first half, it was kind of more slow, more melodic stuff, so it's like, this kind of passed. When you get to the second half of the album, the instrumentation is a lot more diverse, a lot more fast-paced, and there's consistently different things that are going on in there. So when you listen to the instrumentals on the second half of this album, it's very complex, and I actually really do like what they do there. What I really didn't get into this album, again, it's going to be the vocals, because I've spoken about it a number of times once again, and it's just something that when it's all unclean vocals, when they get brutally unclean as well, I just struggle to connect the song with the instrumentals, with the meaning they're trying to put out through the instrumentals and the emotion and how it connects to myself. So it is something I'm not the biggest into, so Willow wasn't the biggest thing for me. Overall though, I was mixed on some of their stuff where, yes, I do like some of their instrumentals. I love the dynamic drumming in the Fantasy Effect. I love the fact they tried the chanting style in Exist on a couple of songs. I really like the song Translucents off of The Color Clear, and we like the vocals really to work on that as well. However, there are sometimes with how they introduce the electronic soundscapes in Exist where I just really had a problem getting into them because sometimes it made it sound like too soundscapey in a way. And the overall consistency of the unclean vocals was something that really did draw me out. And I've spoken about that a number of times already in this video, so I'm not going to repeat why. But overall, when it came to music, I was like, there are things I like, but there are some things that really take me out of it. I don't want the band to change their sound because that is their sound. However, you're just getting my opinion on their sound. So now going on to Reflections, image, and if they have a gimmick. And really taking a look at their image, I had to figure out this for myself. So I'm like, okay, let's take a look at some of their music videos. And what I saw was just very consistent with what I'd see in deathcore and metalcore bands. So take a look at the video for Nothing, or say From Nothing, my bad. The video, it seemed like the guys were playing like a tipped over silo, which I thought this is kind of reminding me of like that warehouse kind of style video that you see a lot of metalcore bands really use. Take a look at Atticus Luna. It has guys playing inside a cabin with a story of like a woman walking through the woods maybe trying to find herself, which again, I understand we got a little more story to it, but again, just because this is playing in a cabin in the woods, kind of gives off a little bit weird feel. Then a song like Vain Words from Empty Minds, it just has him playing in a warehouse with some special effects. So again, nothing really here stands out, but I'm not going to use this as a knock against the band because they're really just showing you kind of just them as themselves. They're not going above and beyond with these music videos to really try and put something out there, and it's not going to be something that's going to decrease from them, but it's not going to be something that really can just take over and really add to the whole entire flavor of the image, much like Ice Nine Kills. Then I took a look at some of their live videos, and when I did this, what I ended up finding was something rather interesting. And again, I was looking at the live videos for these guys. These guys are playing in smaller venues, maybe around 1,000 people or less, some bars, some small music venues, that kind of the sort. And what I ended up getting was something interesting where, yes, their shows were not overly produced. They weren't these crazy shows that I can remember like Motion White or again Ice Nine Kills. But what I did see and what I did resonate well with here was watching the crowd, because the crowd was consistently headbanging. They were really getting into the music. They were having a mosh pit going on. It looked incredibly fun. And what I really liked from the band on this in terms of live performances was they were really driving off of that energy as well. So when I looked at it, I thought, is this something I could really get behind? When it comes to their music videos and when it comes to their overall image and gimmick, it's going to be a complete wash at that point, because there's really nothing that stands out good or bad in my opinion. It's just kind of there. But when it comes to their live shows though, taking a look at how they work with the crowd, how they interact with them, and how they end up driving their energy off the crowd, and the crowd feeds off that and sends it right back to them with increased energy, that's something I can really dig, and that's why I want to see these guys live. Now I'm going to go into the community of fans and see if I can really get into this. And when I took a look at the community of fans, I'm like, okay, we got to go to social media because, again, we're in 2020, we're shooting this. It's a pandemic. I understand that, so we got to be safe in it. Take a look at Facebook. They got about 101,000 likes at the time I really looked into it. So I was like, huh, that's a lot of likes on Facebook. They averaged about 15 posts in 2020. This, again, is as of September 10th. And again, I shot this video 2 months in advance, but I had to redo it, so I'm just using the same script, guys. But they had an average about 103 comments per on those posts, and most of the comments were just applauding for what was said on there. Now let's go to the other ones. With Twitter, they had 8.1 thousand followers as of September 10th, and it looked like it was very sparsely used. It did look like there was a lot of activity going on with not many tweets in 2020, and when I took a look at the response tweets, again, it was a lot of the same stuff that you expect on Twitter. Fans comment and just very sparingly. Taking a look at Instagram though, they ended up having 19.5 thousand followers as of September 10th. They had 18 posts overall at that point, 7 in 2020. And looking at take posts, it was a lot of the standard appreciation from other fans, just covers and favorite album tier lists. So there was a lot of stuff there. So overall, when it comes to the fandom, this is going to be another wash because it's not something that's like I can immediately jump into or I can immediately see. Like when it came to, we'll take a look at Ice Nine Kills, for example, I can easily jump in that. When I did the Baby Metal one, I'm like, I'm kind of half there, half not. And this one, it's like, you know what? This kind of is just there, so it's nothing that I'm too crazy about. Again, this is all going to end up revolving around the music at this point. And now time for the verdict. And do I like Reflections personally? And my answer is, not really. So if you're a Reflections fan, please hear me out as I explain the verdict as why I'm not really into this band after I found out about them. And the reason basically is revolving around the music, where when I listen to it, again, there are certain things I do like about it. I like the way the drumming works. On Exist, I like the way that the transitions between certain points of the song work. On The Color Clear, I like the song Translucent. I really did like that. But the biggest consistency on here was the consistent use of brutal, unclean vocals. And I've spoken about this a good amount of times already. I'm going to reiterate again. When I hear just a song that has consistent, brutal, unclean vocals, it's difficult for me to really understand the meaning of the song and how it relates to the overall energy and overall emotion that the instrumentals are putting out there. So it does get rough for me to really try and figure that out, and I just don't connect with the songs very well in that realm. And when they're doing a lot of that, yeah, it does take me out of it. Again, Translucent, I really do like how that song worked out, but that is an outlier in terms of their overall discography, for my personal opinion. I do like the chanting style, but I didn't really care for the fact that they only used it a little bit. I wish they would have used it more because I really do get into that, much like I did with Stain the Canvas. But then again, this is all my opinion on this. If there's one thing I could really get into their music, it would definitely be their live performances, because again, they play just the way I love it, where it's just, they're up there, they're playing, they're having a blast, and they're just gonna have the crowd feel up their energy, and you're gonna get a lot of headbangers, a lot of mosh pitting, and that's something I can really dive deep into. So this is something where, again, this is a personal thing for the music, where it's just, I'm not big into that kind of style, so it just doesn't really resonate well with me. Would I see these guys live though, once concerts return though? Absolutely, I'd go and see Reflections live. Do not get me wrong about that. I would support this band. However, when it comes to really me and what I'm gonna end up listening to on repeat when I'm working out, when I'm working, when I'm just relaxing, when I'm just at home and listening to my own stuff, this really isn't gonna be on that list. So that's where the not really comes in terms of my overall verdict. And that's gonna be it for me today, guys. Thank you for watching my video of me figuring out if I like Reflections or not. Please remember to like, dislike, comment, share, whatever you guys want to do in terms of if you like the video or not. And I'm gonna end this with the classic head flip. Almost missed it. But see ya!